In this video, we'll learn how to send a MARI project over to a locally installed copy of Modo for rendering. Alright, so again, I'm using my slimmed down version of our Assassin asset. Again, I have removed some of the geometry here inside of this asset just for the purpose of really recording this video. Basically, this is a process when we're sending our project to Modo that is influenced by a number of different variables. And the size of the mesh for our project is one of those variables. So, you can try this with the Assassin project. It should work just fine. It'll probably just take a little bit longer to complete the process because of the added polygons there. So let me show you how this works. We're going to come over and right click and jump into the Modo render palette again. Now we looked at this in the previous video, and I'm going to jump up here and just scroll up till I see my tabs at the top. Again, the first thing you're going to want to do here, we're going to want to bounce over to the Settings tab. And I want you to notice that I have chosen a little different setup here. Instead of using this default Modo option, I now have locally installed Modo selected. What this means is that instead of actually rendering inside of MARI, we're actually going to send all of the information over to Modo, and the render is actually going to occur there. Now, the second thing I've done here is I've specified a file path for the Modo bin. Now, this is the file on a Windows PC that you would use to actually launch Modo. So in my case, I have this pointed at a modo.exe file. Now again, the port numbers, we're not going to want to change those. Those should be good out of the box by default, set at 12.377 and 12.378. Now coming over to the render tab, again we have our render preset, which I'm going to leave mine set to basic since there are really only two options there at this point. I am going to need to come over and connect my MARI channels up to Modo effects, just like we did in the previous video. And I do think it's fair to remind you that for this particular project, I have flattened all my textures down. Let's come over and begin to link these up. My diffuse is going to go to the diffuse color. My normal is going to go to the normal effect. It's going to be down here low. And let's see, the specular is going to go over to specular amount. And let's see what else we have. Roughness, that will go, again, that's going to be one of the lower ones, so I'll move that up. Actually, I lied. It's right there. It's going to go to rough. And lastly, I believe I have a displacement. Yes, I do. And we'll connect that up as a displace. All right, great. So all my channels are connected to Modo effects. Now again, we can come down here and we have this dilemma of do we send it in a flattened form or in an unflattened form. Now again, this is going to completely depend on the project that you're using this on. For a complex project, one that has multiple UDIMs and high resolution textures, it may actually take longer to flatten that project than it would to send it over in an unflattened state. Now I'm going to tell this script to flatten my project, or flatten all the channels in my project, but keep in mind that there really isn't any layers in there, so it's intensively just going to skip that. It's going to try and flatten, but they've already been flattened. So the last thing we're going to want to do here is go ahead and click the render button. Now I'm going to be pausing the video so we can essentially not have to go through a process of watching this happen. But I'll unpause periodically as you can see certain things start to happen. All right, great. So at this point, we are still in the process of sending our project over, but as you can see, Modo has launched for me. And I'm just going to go ahead and minimize it. You can see there is kind of going to be several of these status bars that come up, and you can see each one is going to be doing something a little different. So as part of this process, the first step is the mesh needs to come over into Modo. So MARI's going to work on getting that mesh over first. So you can see that status bar has gone away, but if I were to minimize Modo at this point, you can see that the process is still going on. We still have MARI hard at work back here at sending its entire project over to Modo. So you will start to see some things pop up here inside the preview window. But again, what we're going to do is we're going to just bounce back to Modo here and see what's going on the Modo side of things. And you can see here my mesh has come over. So MARI has successfully sent the mesh over, but it's still working on sending all the textures. You can see those are starting to come across at this point. All right, great. As you can see, we are almost done with the transfer process. MARI is sitting at 99%. So once this wraps up on the MARI side of things, I'll bounce back over to Modo so we can see our result here. Go ahead and bring Modo back up. And there we go. You can see here Modo has come back to us, and it looks like the transfer process is complete. You can see our render actually taking place up here inside of Modo. So great thing about this is not only does the geometry and all of the textures come over into Modo, but so does even the image that was used for our environment light on the MARI side of things. All right, great. So again, this is a new feature that's built into MARI 3, which can really be helpful when you're trying to do some look dev on some textures you're painting, is either to render them using the Modo renderer right inside of MARI, or to, like we just saw in this video, send to a local copy of Modo for rendering.